Hi, everybody. Welcome back and thank you for your support. It was great to be able to spend time with you in the comment section on my last video. Slowly but surely, I'm getting into a new routine and making plans to counteract these continuous blackouts. Before I get on with our royal story of the day, I want to ask you to support me on my other channel, Bookworm on the Case, where I'm currently looking into cold and unsolved cases in Pennsylvania. The videos are short and made in the hope that bigger channels will be reminded of these cases and will give them some airtime and attention. After all, everyone deserves justice. Okay, so back to our royal beat, because that is, after all, what this particular channel is all about. I know everyone is anxious to hear more about Harold and Mog's latest release of the Archwell report, but I'm begging for your patience. We'll get to it. I hear that some people are not too happy with some of the overinflated credit they are giving themselves, and that fingers are pointing at Harold and Mog, but not only at Harold and Mog, but also at someone else. And as soon as I have all the details, I'm going to bring you the entire story. So, for now, let's get back to where we left off on our narrative based on Harold's book, because I can't wait to get to the good parts, which actually comes after the wedding, and I'm talking months after. So, let's hop and skip along and get on with it. Harold whinges about the evening before the wedding. He was staying in a private cottage at Coworth Park Hotel. Now, why was he staying there? Why didn't he stay at, say, Clarence House or an apartment in Buckingham Palace? Anyway, he had mates with him, and while they were supposed to have fun, Harold was glum, as always. He stewed over the issue with Mog's father, the fallout between Catherine and Mog, but more than that, he was upset that William did not join them. William said he could not make it. He called later and said that he'll join them for dinner, but could not stay the night. Harry convinced himself it had something to do with Beardgate, or the issue between Catherine and Mog. So William came, joined Harold to greet the crowds, had dinner, and went home. What I find very strange is how little Harold tells about the actual wedding. He does not say things like how beautiful Mog looked, or talk about the service, or friends being there, or how the church looked. Nothing. Was he perhaps a little high and can't remember much of it? I wonder. He does, however, mention the Archbishop's hands shaking. Likely, he says, because of the 12 cameras on him. And then Harold talks about the ceremony in the garden. Now, what I find really strange is this, and I quote: the Archbishop reached the official part, spoke the few words that made us the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. He doesn't say which made us husband and wife, but the Duke and Duchess. Don't you find that a little strange as well? Anyway, he also says he joined us until death parted us, though he'd already done similar days earlier in our garden, a small ceremony, just the two of us, Guy and Pula, the only witnesses, unofficial, non-binding, except in our souls. So here we have Harold trying to cover up Mog's lie in the Oprah interview. But what he forgets is that we heard what Mog said. She said, and I quote verbatim, you know, 3 days before our wedding, we got married.
What are you most excited about in the new life? What are you most excited? Here, chick, 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 chick.
I think just being able to live authentically, right? Like this kind of stuff it's so basic, but it's really fulfilling. And just getting back down to basics. I mean, I was thinking about it, even our wedding, 3 days before our wedding, we got married. No one knows that, but we called the Archbishop and we just said, look, this spectacle is for the world, but we want our union between us. So like the vows that we have framed in our room are just the two of us in our backyard with the Archbishop of Canterbury, and that was the piece that...
Just the three of us. Just the three of us.
Just the three of us.
There is only one meaning to getting married, but now, because of Mog's lie, they have to backtrack without admitting to lying. And I personally think it's pathetic. He also does not share anything about their honeymoon, except to say they went to the Mediterranean for 10 days. He mentions Mog's first trooping the colour and her flippant remark when asked what she thought. He talks about Mog's first solo trip with Granny and how Mog thought she bonded with Granny. And then, of course, Harold again, in his childish manner, tries to cover for Mog and addresses Mog getting into the car before Granny, blah, blah, blah. He says Granny told her to do that. According to Harold, Granny told Mog to get in, and she got in. Unfortunately for him, we all watched the video and know that is utter BS, because we saw Mog ducking to get in and then getting out again. So why did she do that? And besides, the Queen was raised and lived with protocol her entire life. As a granny and in private, she may very well tell Mog or anybody else, come on, get in, get in. But out in public, she won't. Harold also says that no one told Mog to wear green, but that the palace specifically told her to not wear a hat. He's delusional. That's what it is. Why would the palace tell her not to wear a hat if the Queen did? Anyway, in simple terms, what does dress code mean? When instructed on dress code, I would guess that palace officials would be rather specific. Harold expected the palace to put out a statement and correct the newspaper report. And that again is utterly delusional. Imagine the headlines. Buckingham Palace apologizes for not telling Mog to wear a bra, for not telling her to wear panties, for not telling her to wear stockings, lest her feet start to stink after walking all day, for not telling her to tie her hair up, wear a fascinator or a hat to keep the hair out of her face in the wind. Oh, and lest we forget, we told her it's okay to step in front of her elder and the Queen, of course, of this nation, and leave her standing while you bundle yourself into the vehicle. So say we, the palace. Oh, goodness. Bugger off, Harry. Oh my gosh. And then Harold spends an entire chapter on a visit to William and Catherine, a visit meant to clear the air. By now, page 343 of my book, Harold has fully displayed his immaturity and lack of responsibility and accountability. But it was this chapter which, for me, was the epitome of his delusions and jealousy. He talks about the interior of William and Catherine's apartment, the crown moulding, the walnut bookshelves, the priceless art, which he fails to mention likely does not belong to Catherine and William, but is likely on loan from the palace. He compares their decor with what he calls their IKEA lamps and discount sofa. Now look, how old was Harold when he married Mog? I think 33 or 34, something like that. So how can he be jealous? He had, say, 13 years in which he could have collected classic pieces of furniture or picked up a piece of art on his many travels, but he was partying and drinking instead. Not William and Catherine's fault, is it? Just like it's not their fault that he chose a wife with no taste and no sense of style. He says that the original animosity between Catherine and Mog was because Catherine thought Mog wanted her fashion contacts. But in reality, Mog had her own. What a load of claptrap. We all know, as did Catherine, I'm sure, that Mog had her pal and then stylist Jessica Mulroney. Gosh, Jessica was at the wedding, wasn't she? And then he mentions the bridesmaids' dresses again. But that wasn't enough. According to Harold, William and Catherine were upset that they did not give them Easter gifts. Oh my word. I just can't with this nearly 40-year-old child. Next year, I'll send William and Catherine a basket of Easter eggs, okay? And I'll add a card on behalf of Harold and Mog. I'm sure that will change the monarchy forever. Not. But Harold is not finished. He tells how him and Mog retorted with their own gripes and upsets, one of which being that William and Catherine switched place cards and changed seats during their wedding. According to Harold, they followed American tradition by placing couples next to each other. But William and Catherine did not like it, so they changed the seating at their table. William and Catherine were indeed surprised and said it wasn't them. But talking about that, that is exactly what Harold and Mog did at Pippa's wedding. But although Harold denied them doing it, he was very quick to add in his book that him and Mog were separated by a huge flower arrangement at Pippa's wedding, and how desperate they were to be together. So, who do you believe? Do you believe William and Catherine that they did exactly that at Pippa's wedding? Or do you believe Harold and Mog? Anyway, now, my dear viewers, as petty as this may be, let me just inform you of the truth. Because as much as my contact will not talk about the royal family per se, this is the kind of trivial shit he'll gladly correct. The seating at the reception was worked out weeks before the wedding. The layout and design of table arrangements and everything else was meticulously planned and laid out by household staff who had done this numerous times before for state banquets and other events, for the Queen herself and others. This is not a small family wedding where Granny and Auntie Sue will argue and fight about whether drunk Uncle Joe should be seated next to Aunt Mary, who is a nun. No, no, no. With the royals, diplomacy and protocol is absolutely key. My contact says that he sincerely, very sincerely, doubt Catherine or William had even so much as set foot in the reception hall before the wedding. And besides, he says, the formal seating in this case was only applicable while the speeches were delivered and food eaten. Once the music and dancing started, it was a free for all. Everyone was mingling and having a good time. He says that he does not know about Pippa's wedding, but others told him that Harold and Mog frequently in those earlier days insisted on being seated together. And he was told that some people were rather upset by their conduct and vowed not to invite them to dinner or minor events anymore, as they were rude and clawing at each other, making other people feel uncomfortable. So there is that, something which can easily be verified, and as a matter of fact, has been verified. I think in one of her old videos a long time ago, Lady C actually talked about how Harold and Mog behaved and how people in these elite circles felt about their behavior. So it's not just my poor contact or his colleagues and friends. Some of the Harkle's ex-buddies will gladly confirm this. Then Harold tells about Mog saying to Catherine that she has a baby brain and that she is forgetful because of her hormones. Catherine allegedly took offense, as I would have, and William then told Mog she was rude. Mog told him to take his finger out of her face, and the rest is history. Anyway, just because I'm an obstinate bitch, I went and checked on Harold's statement with regards to American style seating. And he's actually talking shite. When it comes to formal or semi formal events, it depends on the occasion. If it is a strictly formal event with, say, foreign dignitaries or a military event, the main focus is to alternate men and women as far as possible. And then it will also depend on whether oblong or square or rectangular tables or round tables are used. Often, if square or long tables are used, couples will sit opposite each other. Or when one or two parties arrived without a partner, couples will also be split. Or sometimes couples are split just to ensure interaction between people who do not know each other, partners or not. Depending on the event, people may also be seated according to rank. So Harold is wrong. Although it can happen that a couple sit next to each other, it is not an American thing. It depends on the occasion, first and foremost. And in less formal events like a birthday dinner, it depends on the host's preference. So once again, wrong, Harold. Stop listening to your wife, who may not be from Compton, but who has no idea, not a clue, about etiquette and decorum, whether American or British. Okay, guys, so I'm getting closer to the revelations I want to make and the receipts I've been dying to show you. But I'll be back in a few hours with other stuff first before we get to that. So until then, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.